right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Live with Metamona. I am your host, Metamona, and as always, here to ignite your curiosity with the latest in Web3, crypto, AI, and just about anything that is hot and trending in technology. My special guest today is as exclusive as it gets. He's a true visionary and a mastermind behind his company, Versus. If you're not familiar with Versus, Versus is an AI and spatial networking company, and he's going to tell you all about it. He's also an architect of the spatial web and a co-author of the best-selling book, The Spatial Web. Needless to say, we are talking about spatial web with the man himself. Dan Mapes is here to break it down for us. Dan, it is an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Great to be here, Mona. Really looking forward to it.
Same here. We had Denise here 2 weeks ago, and she got us all warmed up and ready. So I'm really excited to dive a little bit deeper into the world of spatial web. But before we dive in, I want to give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about Versus.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a technology guy from Silicon Valley. I did my graduate degrees at Berkeley, and I've been looking at the integration of artificial intelligence and virtual reality, along with technologies like blockchains and other technologies, into an integrated system. Normally, most of the people in the field, if you interview virtual reality people, they don't know much about AI. AI people don't know much about blockchains. Blockchain people don't know much about IoT devices. But actually, they're all part of one entire system in the way that tires and engines and steering wheels and things, we put them all together in the right way, we just go car. And so what we're looking at is the next level of fully integrated systems that human beings could use to manage the planet, manage their businesses, manage the government, manage supply chains, and ultimately even maybe help manage the climate. So that's really what we're about, integrating artificial intelligence and networking so that we have a kind of a global nervous system, if you will, beyond what we're currently doing with the World Wide Web, which has been a great information resource, but it doesn't function very well as an operations resource.
Right. And by the way, guys who are listening, if we sound and look right to you, you can hear us, you can see us, let me know in the chat. And always, if you have any questions, this is why Dan is here and this is why we're doing this live. So be sure to ask any questions you may have. But Dan, let's bring it all the way back because I want to set the stage here for our listeners and then have you take it away. But the internet has really evolved significantly. In the 80s and in the 90s, we had Web 1 emerge with the open protocols and tech giants like Google and Amazon creating this internet of, they called read. And then came Web 2 in the 2000s, where entrepreneurs like Mark Zuckerberg introduced social networks, turning it into an internet of read and write. And then we had this period of dominations where tech companies just got, giant techs just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now the internet is in a precocious point where it could turn into these TV channels, which that's the fight, that's what we don't want. And the counter trend started with Satoshi, Vitalik, and Ethereum, creating this explosion of innovation in Web3 and the concept of network economies. And I think we are witnessing another golden moment where something as exponential as mobile could be shaping here. But we also all of a sudden have AI. And by the way, people don't talk about how AI actually came around, and I know you're going to shed light on this, about 50 something years ago, but it was too early then. And nevertheless, it is here now, and it seems like it's converging with Web3. It is merging with 2D web, 3D gaming world, building spatial web. There's so much going on here. Can you explain these merges and this evolution to us and kind of walk us through what is happening and how could it possibly impact us?
Sure. I mean, really, we're looking at evolution in action. I mean, when we look at evolution in the biological realm, we see how we've evolved from fish in the ocean to reptiles on the land to mammals and apes and now humans. I mean, that's evolution in action. Guess what? Works in technology as well. So we start off with very simple computing systems that can just add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Then they get networked, and then they start to be communication systems. And then we have something like the World Wide Web, and ultimately, then we have social networks, levels and levels and levels. Each one standing on the shoulders of the previous generation and building more capability. But there's really two strands driving this right now. One is bandwidth and chip speeds. As they get faster, we can do more. So in 1970, when the internet began, all we could do was email, just send little text files back and forth between computers. By 1994, 95, the bandwidth had gotten faster. We had dial up modems, and it was all big deal stuff. And we could actually watch a whole page of information download with pictures on it and things. And we thought that was pretty remarkable because that's all you could do at that time.
Which people
So we've
thought
had
it was,
now
which people kind of compared it to digital magazines, correct?
exactly. Yeah. I mean, you could read things and it was pretty cool. And with Amazon, you could even order things. And then with our smartphones, we had faster chips and faster networks. So now we could do social media, watch YouTube, all kinds of things. But generally, if we wanted to play a big 3D game, we had to play it over on a PlayStation or an Xbox. The network just couldn't handle 3D. It could handle 2D images and 2D video, but that was about it. But what's happened in the last few years is we've gotten 5G now, and we're starting to see Fortnite and Roblox and other 3D environments come online. So we're ready now, instead of the original internet, which was just a protocol to link all the machines together and enable email. The second protocol was HTTP, which we use all the time to link all the websites together and enable the World Wide Web. Now we can have a spatial protocol to link 3D environments together, like buildings in a city or gaming worlds or metaverses or shopping in 3D rather than looking at a page of pictures of, say, women wearing Gucci dresses. You can actually go into the world of Gucci and see yourself wearing the dresses and picking out what you like, maybe even co-designing it.
Very
So
interactive,
each step is
interactive,
an evolution over the previous one.
right?
You know.
Very interactive marketing, correct?
Well, interactive everything. I mean, really, what we're looking at, and we saw this with Second Life a little bit, which was an early metaverse. Really, it is a second life. We're going to do everything in these 3D worlds that we do in the 2D, that we do in our daily life. We're going to educate ourselves, entertain ourselves, go shopping, go to nightclubs. I mean, people have seen Ready Player One, the movie. One of the cool scenes in Ready Player One was the ultimate nightclub scene. You could float around, dance to cool music, really cool things were happening. So I think that's why Mark Zuckerberg, when he saw Ready Player One and things like that, he realized, oh my gosh, I mean, we're going to move from 2D to 3D. He had a $1 trillion corporation based on two-dimensional pages, and he said, gosh, we've just got to spend money and learn about this new 3D world. And so he changed his company name to Meta Platforms, and got ready for the next wave of computing, which kind of begins in probably 2025 when it really starts to blow up. But we got about a year and a half, and then it's just going to blow through the roof, and we're going to live inside 3D worlds. And again, we've got two generation of gamers that have grown up playing World of Warcraft and every kind of game known to mankind, Mario Brothers, everything. They're all in 3D. So we've actually got a lot of people that are used to being in 3D worlds that are now 30, between 15 and 30. And so they want a 3D web. So they're going to get a 3D web. And we wrote the protocols to enable a 3D web. And that's coming out in probably in January, February, somewhere in there. And then from then on, it'll grow just like the World Wide Web did. Started with a few web pages, and I think we're up to 30 billion web pages on the World Wide Web now. I mean, it's insane because it enables anybody anywhere in the world to build them.
Correct. Well, why is the time now? I mean, AI was introduced many decades ago. We had AR and VR were introduced decades ago, and they were early. Why is the time now?
It really just has to do with ease of use. We've actually had AI for about 50 years, as you've said, and AI has been running our web servers and it's used in our cars to adjust things, and it's used in aircraft and everything. So AI is everywhere. We just don't see it. What happened in December of last year is OpenAI put a chat program on the front of one of their AIs so that anybody anywhere in the world could just chat with an AI. First time it was really done that way with an advanced AI. And everybody got, oh my God, this is amazing. And we went from 0 to 100 million users of ChatGPT in 60 days. So really all that happened there was ease of use. Same thing happened with the smartphone. I mean, smartphone isn't smart and it's not a phone. It's not a smartphone. It's a computer. It's a very powerful
And
computer,
people
but we
didn't
made it so
realize that
easy
at
to
first,
use.
right? People didn't
We
realize
made it so easy. Yeah, we made it so easy to use that grandmothers can program it to call their grandchild and have a conversation with them on FaceTime. Well, that's really, you could say, well, how come computers are now invading our lives everywhere? Well, we just made them easy to use. So ChatGPT has now made AI easy to use, and everybody can use it.
Yeah, and it's I have something up here from Mark Andreessen, the founder of Netscape Navigator. I follow him a lot, and I kind of read his blogs. And he recently came up and did a thread on how AI could make our lives easier. And I love this write-up that he did. And I want to read part of it to you. And I'm going to propose a question here. He says, every child will have an AI tutor that is infinitely patient. Every person will have an AI assistant, coach, mentor, trainer, advisor, therapist that is infinitely patient. Every scientist will have an AI assistant, collaborator, partner. Every leader of people, CEO, government officials, nonprofit presidents, athletic coach, teachers will have the same. He talks about productivity, and I'm just breezing through it, scientific breakthroughs, the creative arts. And he goes on to say at the very end, we should be living in a much better world with AI. And now we can. But in contrast to this positive view, the public conversation about AI is presently of hysterical fear and paranoia, from AI is going to kill us to AI is going to take our jobs, bad people are going to do worse things. But I feel like with every new technology that really did matter, from automobiles to radio, internet, we had this panic moment before, right? What is your theory on this? Is AI really what people are thinking it is? Is it going to take our jobs? Is it going to ruin our society?
Well, I think there's two backgrounds to this moment. One is we just don't like change. We like predictability, and so suddenly something new comes in that could kind of turn things upside down a little bit. Oh, that's frightening. How am I going to adapt to that? But secondly, I think is Hollywood doesn't make movies by telling little stories that, hey, everything's nice and it's going to be fine and let's go dancing in the meadow. No, they like to tell scary stories. So we have Terminator and HAL, and we got all the scary AIs in history. So now that we got AI coming into our lives, is it HAL and Terminator or Skynet or what is it? Because we've been kind of trained on Hollywood movies. But in fact, I think Mark Andreessen's got it right. I mean, we're going to just like electricity improved our lives, just like cars have improved our lives. AI is going to improve our lives. Now, cars have problems. I mean, people die in car wrecks, and drunk drivers drive crazy, and all kinds of bad things happen. But what we do is we kind of make the cars safer. We make the roads safer. We put in seat belts. We put in other kinds of controls. We pass laws. If you do this, you'll be arrested, or we'll take your driver's license away, things like that. And so I think the same with this new technology. It'll come in. It may have some bumps and bruises along the way, and people going through windshields or drunk drivers or whatever. And then we'll pass laws. And if you misuse the technology, then we'll take away your ability to use it, just like drunk driving. If you do drunk driving a couple of times, they just pull your license and like, I'm sorry, take a break. Get They even send you to therapy, you know. So yeah, we'll be able to use the tech as it comes in. We're already using it. People are using it all over the world right now. But as we encounter problems with it, we'll start to build the equivalent of seat belts and catalytic converters and airbags and things like that to protect ourselves from the bad side. Because even though some people die in car wrecks, and they do, it's a problem. The gain that we gain from having an independent transportation system is so great that we're willing to take the risk. And we all take a risk every time we drive the car. I
Of
mean,
course.
anybody can run into it.
So we
So,
have, what you're saying is we have a Ferrari and we just haven't built the roads and the guardrails and the toll roads. Is that right?
we're kind of co-building everything together. We may not even have a Ferrari. We may have a ghost,
No,
but
I think this thing is moving too fast, Dan. This is moving way
no,
too fast.
it's so much better than a horse that we think it's a Ferrari, but no, the Ferraris are yet to come. The
Oh
Ferraris are
boy.
when we reach artificial general intelligence, which is that means human scale intelligence, where you really do have a highly intelligent AI that can function just like a human in the world. That will come along somewhere between 3 and 10 years from now. No one can guess exactly, but it's in that window between now and 2033, say, we'll probably hit an AGI, and that'll be network wide. So just as Mark was saying, everybody will have an assistant. Well, suddenly your assistant's getting smarter all the time. It isn't like it's a static assistant. It's an assistant that's getting smarter and smarter and smarter, and finally is smarter than you are. So that's kind of the exciting moment that happens. So we'll have usable AI now. Next year it'll be better. The year after that it'll be better. Probably in 2025, six, seven, somewhere in there, it starts to get smarter than we are in various ways, and then it gets real exciting. I mean, then you're starting to have other kinds of intelligent beings that we've never had before. You know, almost like if we're aliens were visiting or something, they'll be so intelligent, they'll help us solve our problems, but they'll create new kinds of art and all kinds of things. So it's quite an exciting adventure humanity's about to go on.
Very exciting. I'm just excited to have a Jarvis of my own. By the way, guys who are listening, feel free to ask Dan any question you have about AI.
Oh, I lost you. I'm not hearing your voice now. It just dropped out.
Okay, how about now?
Oh yeah, you got it.
Now you can hear me?
Yep.
Give me
Mm-hmm.
one
Yeah.
second. Give me 1 second, guys, because I still have difficulty here. Give me just a second. All right, Dan, how about now?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yep, you can hear me, but now I can't hear you. So hold on. This is what
Oh,
happens
no,
when we
no,
do
no.
live shows. This is what happens when we do live shows, guys. We can have difficulties. Let's see. I cannot hear Dan, so let me.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right. How about now?
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Hello, hello.
All right, Dan, let me
One,
hear
two,
you.
three. Hello. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Let's see here.
I don't know
One,
why I
two,
can't hear Dan,
three.
guys. Let's see.
Now we were doing so good.
All of a sudden, we are having. Can you guys in the audience hear us? Both of us? You can hear both of us.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Brian, thank you for that.
That's fun.
I don't know why. Let me see why I can't hear Dan, though. I still can't hear Dan.
Hello, hello. 1, 2, 1, 2.
You all can
One,
hear
two,
me. And
one,
you can you
two.
guys hear Dan?
You. Safe House says they can hear both of us. Yeah, they can
That
hear
is
us both.
so crazy.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Dan, let me hear you say something.
One, two, one,
So
two,
weird.
1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. I could dial back in.
All right, let's see. I may have to do. Okay, Dan is gonna dial back in.
I'll get out and I'll come back. Yeah. Okay.
Guys, we both might have to dial back in. So just hang in there with us. We'll be right back, okay? Sorry about that. This is what happens when you do live news, guys. The live interviews, it happens. Give us a minute and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, how's it going now?
Loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Wow, look at that.
We did it.
We did it. All it takes is a restart. Can you guys know, let us know in the chat, can you hear us? Can you hear us both?
And then you can just edit the link back, right? We'll just stop it where it stopped before and just edit the new in.
Yes, yes. All right. Okay, guys, we are back. Thank you for your patience. Where were we? Dan, I was saying,
Well, I think we kind of did a review of how we got here and kind of what's coming. We're kind of in a fun experimentation zone of AI at the moment, but what we're about to get to is intelligent AI, and that's really what our company is really working on. We're going beyond what's called large language models like OpenAI. They're kind of a machine. It's called machine intelligence. You basically spend $200 million in 2 years building a machine with, say, 900 billion parameters in it, which is something like 700 million words. And then you can ask the machine questions and it'll answer it. But that's kind of not really like human intelligence. So we started over. Our chief scientist is the number one neuroscientist in the world. His name is Dr. Carl Friston. And we're developing a new kind of AI, which is more like artificial general intelligence, so that instead of us building a giant machine that you get to ask questions to, we actually give you, the developers, users, audience, tools, almost like the App Store or like a website, and you can build small AIs that mimic your specialty. You might know something about nutrition or French history, so then you can build your own AI and upload it almost like onto a web, and all of them talk to each other, and together as a community we grow a large AI instead of some big company building it. So we're building a living AI, and that's called active inference AI. It's a new kind of AI. It's never been seen in the world before. It's been research at universities, but it's coming out in January, and it'll really change everything and make these assistants we're going to have more like human beings.
and I want to ask you about connectivity because it sounds like all of these channels are now being connected via AI. But before I do, Brian here, I put his question up on the screen. Dan, there's a lot of excitement around the pending release of GIA beta version, personal assistant. Can you comment on status? Is beta version still on track for release end of summer?
Probably more like I would think in probably November. But let's just assume with the holidays and everything, it might roll into January. So sometime within the next 5 months, we'll release GIA. And GIA just stands for General Intelligent Agent. And really, that's exactly what Mark Andreessen was talking about. It's your personal assistant. But instead of it being a large language model like OpenAI, it's more like an organic organism, like a person. So it's learning and evolving. LLMs, as we know, don't learn. So ChatGPT 2, they had to spend a couple $100 million building it, and then once it's up and running, they started working on ChatGPT 3. And that took them 2 years and another 200 million to build that. Then once that was up, start working on GPT-4. Well, that's not how animals and humans learn. We learn a little bit every day, every moment. So we're just evolving. So I don't have to go into a shop and to a doctor and get myself uploaded to Dan 3.0 or Dan 4.0. No, I just grow every day and learn. And I hardly even notice that I'm changing. It's only when your aunt comes to town once a year and goes, "Oh my gosh, how much you've grown!" It's like that, So we grow organically. So we built the first AI now called GIA, and part of the Versus system that grows organically. And so that's really an exciting milestone in artificial intelligence. People have been dreaming of it for a long time. Data on Star Trek is like that. It's a learning environment. Data is learning every day and interacting with Captain Kirk and doing various things. And so we wanted an AI like that. That's really what everybody's been dreaming about so far. We've been putting up with neural nets because they do some cool things, but they make errors, and it's very hard to see into the neural net where the error is or why it made that decision or that recommendation. Without auditability and without explainability, it's kind of dangerous to use that kind of AI for anything that's mission critical, like running a hospital or policing the streets or whatever it is. And so we really needed organic AI that could operate the way we do, that could explain why it made a decision, how it arrived at that decision. Imagine you're in a medical situation and the AI is recommending that they remove your arm or something, you know. I mean, you would want to understand, how did you arrive at that? Well, if we don't do it, you've got a blood clot there that'll kill you.
And that's why I
But
was gonna,
if it
and
doesn't
that's
go, yeah,
exactly,
that's the problem.
that's what I wanted to ask you about, this level of connectivity that GIA is able to do. How does that, I mean, it's so unfathomable. How does that even, how will it influence our behavior and interaction, both digitally and physically, say by 2050? What is that going to look like exactly?
Oh, gee, I don't think anybody can tell you exactly. I got to tell you, I mean, as a technologist, we're lucky if we can see 5 years out right now. I mean, look at the news every month. My gosh, I mean, it used to be something really significant in America might happen once a month or so. Now it's happening every day. I mean, it's remarkable. I think we're in a high-speed change right now. So we can probably see out to about 2030, but then quantum computing is coming on stream. Uh, AI goes AGI, becomes highly intelligent. It might solve problems for us that we can't solve right now. We might suddenly never die. We might live for 300 years or something. And, you know, I mean, a lot of changes. We're entering the age of science fiction. So beyond 2030, I mean, no one can see, because you start getting artificial general intelligence combining with quantum computing, and it's networked globally. It's solving our climate problems. It's probably robots are probably building houses for us for nearly free. I mean, with dirt and lasers, and you just get a beautiful home. So everybody has food, everybody has housing, everybody has medical care, everybody has a better than a Harvard education for free worldwide. I mean, these are things we can see now that we can do even by 2030. There's robots, house building companies like WASP in Italy. There's going to be virtual reality AI type education systems. They're already training people faster than they can in a normal real life environment. So we're seeing breakthroughs everywhere. CRISPR technology, AI plus CRISPR might solve every illness that we have. I mean, most of the genetic diseases are expected to be defeated by 2040 right
And
now.
I
So
want to
yeah,
ask
you
you,
can see an age of, you can see an age of abundance coming. You know, really an extraordinary period.
And I want to ask you, you bring up a really good point about training. I want to ask you about AI and training. Before I do, Dan just wants to clarify the GEA timing you cited for January, the beta version, correct?
Sure, that's probably a pretty safe time frame. Might be a little before that.
Um, Before we, well, actually, go ahead. Let's go. This is our good friend Scott. He's asking, have you read The Extended Mind by Annie Murphy Paul? Describe how we think with our surroundings. How might we think with virtual build spaces? Good question, Scott.
No, great question, Scott. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the ways that we do things is we kind of imagine in our minds things. So that's like a simulation. Well, imagine now you've got AIs and you can just talk to it, like, show me this situation in full immersive 3D, and I can try it on, and then you can modify it and interact with it and talk to your intelligent agent. So wow, our simulations get quite extraordinary. So before we build something, whatever, we can test it, we can stress test it, we can simulate the traffic in a city if we changed every other street to one way. I mean, you can do all kinds of things. So I think, again, this is more like, it's almost like we're increasing our intelligence dramatically and our ability to envision things. And so we'll make better decisions and more interesting decisions, and we'll invent new things. So I think we're entering really an extraordinary age of abundance, and kind of like our best science fiction movies. You know, maybe more like Star Trek than Star Wars. I mean, I don't think we're going to be warring across space, but we certainly will be building cities on Mars and the moon and improving the cities here on Earth. Probably there are no homeless people and nobody hungry in 2050,
Uh,
as an example.
we will see about that, but I want to bring up VR and Oculus because, they were originally introduced back in 2013, but it was too early then, and it seems like now we need such devices to connect all these technologies that you're alluding to work together and integrate them into our daily lives. How are we going to be using AI, AR, VR, and IoTs in our daily lives? And what issues do you see them solve in different fields? You brought up training. I wanted to get your feedback on that.
No, sure. One way you could think about it is the metaverse is like a new world that we're going to all build together. And these metaverses are not going to be siloed like they are right now with Decentraland and Sandbox and others. They'll actually be just like a world wide web of metaverses. So, what you want to do is you want to be able to see into this metaverse. Well, we've learned from 3D gaming that you can play a 3D game on a 2D screen. So, all your current laptops and smartphones and everything will still work in these big metaverse environments. But if you've got headsets like the Oculus and put them on, now you're in it. And so once you're in it, wow, it's extraordinary. So the sales of headsets and glasses, AR and XR glasses, are going to go through the roof in the late 2020s. But yeah, once you've got that world up, then gosh, it does everything. It educates us faster and more effectively. New kinds of entertainment, new kinds of shopping, new kinds of socializing. Again, I think Ready Player One gave people a flavor of what's coming. But I think it's going to be even more radical than that. But yeah, we'll be hanging out in VR a lot. It's going to be an incredibly delightful, rich, socializing and learning and play environment. Really.
Let's talk about issues too. But before we do, we have a question here. Raid is asking, what is the status with the Wayfinder-Blue Yonder partnership?
Oh, so that's a good question. What a lot of people don't see, because we're very interested in the consumer applications, there are many, many industrial applications of AR, VR, AI as well. So running hospitals, running factories, running warehouses, running supply chains, running ports, running airports, all this kind of stuff. We want to automate that. And so one of the applications we're doing is running warehouses with AI. So instead of a normal warehouse where you might order something online and the warehouse gets the order, okay, we want these 15 things, and put them in a box and send them to Mona. A warehouse worker would have to go out into the warehouse and look for these things. But what we do now is we let the AI make a digital copy of the warehouse, and now it knows where everything is. So it can like save the warehouse worker time walking through it. It knows mathematically the best order to take the shortest path. It can do all. It knows what things should be moved because they're always picked near each other. So it can modify the warehouse. It can reorder things more accurately. It can ship things more accurately. Error rates go way down. Training times drop from 2.5 days to 30 minutes. So it just makes everything run better. So we call that product Wayfinder. And one of our customers is called Blue Yonder. And we signed a multi-year contract with them, and we're in the process of installing some of the first warehouses in partnership with them now. And that will roll out over the next several years as they do more and more of the warehouses. But ultimately, every warehouse in the world and every factory in the world and every store in the world and probably every hospital in the world will all be spatialized. So this is just the beginning. If you went back to 1995, you just couldn't imagine that there would be 30 billion web pages. But basically, every document we have is now online. So every space that we have in the world, they're not called metaverses, they're called digital twins. But a digital twin of a building is just a metaverse. It's just a 3D world. But we call it a digital twin because there is an actual physical building that mimics it. So now you've got the digital twin. Well, the robots then can operate in the digital twin. Drones can land on the digital twin. It becomes part of the digital landscape. And so our Wayfinder app is one of the first applications in that. But what we're doing in January is we're releasing the tool so that we're not the only people building the apps. Apple had to build the first 10 apps on the iPhone, but then they opened the App Store and they let everybody else build apps. And that created Uber and Airbnb and all these other great apps that we have today. So we're doing the same thing. We're building the initial apps, Wayfinder and some other things that we're building. But ultimately, we're giving you guys all the tools. You'll build the next Ubers and Airbnbs and whatever in of the spatial world. And so we're looking forward to that. And our job is to really support you all as developers. And you can go to our website and let people know that you want to be a developer, and we'll get you on the developer short list as we start to roll this out to developers.
It-
Oh, by the way, the website is VERSES, not VERSUS, VERSES.ai.
And I'll put
So
that
go
in,
on there and
and I'll put that in the video notes for you guys as well with Dan's information. Dan, as you were explaining how this will all unfold, I want to bring up issues. We had a lot of those issues in Web 2 that we're, to this day, we're still mitigating, but we also have issues with AI currently. We cannot tell who is real and who's a chatbot, and we had the introduction of WorldCoin taking a stab at the orb and that solution. We're still experiencing hacks even on the blockchain. How are we addressing the current AI issues? And then also, how is AI addressing Web 2 issues?
yeah, no key questions, of course. I mean, we can see with Web 2 that the big three problems we ran into were hacking, surveillance capitalism called tracking, and faking. What's real, what's not, who's who, who's spoofing who. So hacking, tracking, and faking are fundamental problems. And as you're moving into a big spatial web, which is the internet of everything, you better address those problems. Otherwise, you're just exacerbating them. And so things like self-sovereign identity, blockchains, other kinds of things really do cut down on the hacking. Self-sovereign identity gives you zero knowledge proofs, which means you can operate without surveillance capitalism, which is great. And then AI being networked throughout the internet can spot kind of fakes or people faking who they are. And it also functions as kind of an immune system. Somebody wanted to build a terrorist app or something, the AIs would see it pretty quick and shut it down. So I think this next wave of the internet has been able to learn from the errors of the previous wave. You got to remember the reason that we have surveillance capitalism and a lot of the hacking is that the internet was just an open information exchange environment that really wasn't prepared to defend itself. So there's no security layer, there's no identity layer, there's no location layer in the current World Wide Web. But in the spatial web, we were able to put all those things in. So we're able to cut down on all that. I don't think you'll ever completely cut down on hacking. You're always going to have some of that. The greatest book around hacking is Neuromancer. I recommend everybody read it by William Gibson. But yeah, there'll always be hacks. But I think if we can cut them down so we're not getting a ransomware and other big kinds of problems we're currently having, that would be great.
Dan, whose job is it to set these parameters and set these guidelines for AI? Is it the tech giants? I think it was last month the Biden administration came out asking tech giants to step forward and help with regulations of AI. Is this their job? Who do we look for to set these parameters and regulations with AI?
Oh, definitely. I think it's multiple stakeholders. I mean, at the end of the day, laws get passed, so that's government. Advising the lawmakers generally are experts, and that tends to be the industry or academics maybe that have a critical understanding of the technology. Also, people involved in the philosophy of ethics and looking at overall ethical issues around inclusion and other kinds of things. So I think it's a conversation, and then you get the initial laws. I mean, look at all the traffic laws. When the Model T was created, there weren't even any street lights or anything, you know. So I think it's an evolving conversation. I mean, everybody's talking about AI all over the world. We're members of AI Consortium. We put out a big report on our website that you can download in partnership with the #1 law firm in the world, Denton's. who advises government agencies and lawmakers on these things as well. So I think this is going to be an evolving area as AI intrudes on our lives. We're going to pass more and different laws. The European Union tends to be a little bit stricter than America. What the EU tends to do is they try to look at the problems and solve them in advance. We in the US tend to like a more freer environment, let the problem emerge and then try to correct it. And so we're a little less restrictive here than they are in Europe, but because we're worldwide, sometimes the European laws end up like GDPR around privacy end up becoming the standard. But I think it's a global conversation, and AI has many positive and also some scary implications. So I think you'll see a lot of conversations within governments and then between them as we start to figure out how we manage this on a global scale. But ultimately, I mean, look at the real problems we have too. Our problems are becoming global. I mean,
Of
climate is
course.
a huge problem, and AI will help us solve that. And so we'll be able to work internationally with AI to even address our problems. So uh, we're going to be in a conversation about this for the next 30 years while we kind of get up to the ability of almost like having highways and traffic lights and all the rest we have for cars. And we're going to do the same thing now for AI.
We have a long road ahead, and one thing people are not keeping in mind is that the evolution of Web 1, Web 2, and now Web 3, it's taken this long, and we're all just pointing fingers and saying, hurry up and fail, really, that's what we're saying. But this really is an evolution, and we're just at the very bleeding edge of all of these technologies converging. So needless to say, there's a lot of patience that has to happen here. And how awesome is it that some of these tech companies are taking the lead and leading the way? And of course, in the US, we have this bad habit of people that fall, making an example of them and then ruining it for everybody else. But I digress. I won't go there. I'm going to bring up Scott's question here. Do you support the proposed soul-bound token protocol based on Vitalik's white paper?
Oh, well, I think it's too early. It's too early to know how that's all going to play out. But I'm a big fan of Vitalik's, of course. I mean, my gosh, what can you say? Ethereum is historic. Vitalik's been historic, so it's probably going to have a positive impact. But it's so early yet. These are just early ideas. But yeah, I love anything Vitalik's putting forward is usually correct. I mean, the guy's been there from the very beginning and really paid his dues and is a deep thinker on these things. So we're big fans of Vitalik.
Same here. Darren Johnson is asking, can you explain any catalysts which will support the stock price between now and the end of 2023, considering some milestones are pushed back to the beginning of 2024?
Well, we're kind of in a quiet period right now, so I'm not really at ease to speak too clearly about it. But I think just watch now that we're past Labor Day. I mean, you get the dog days of summer in July and August. But I think now that people are back from travels and Burning Man and various vacations, I think you're going to see a good, strong series of announcements from us of various breakthroughs and things we're announcing. So I think you're going to see a good support in terms of information flow from the company. And gosh, we got such a great team with Dr. Carl Friston, the chief scientist, and the great PhDs we have. We got a stream of patents coming out and new kinds of capabilities. So I think it's going to be a good news run for the next 90 days, and then we're into the new year.
Couple of last questions. I know I want to be respectful of your time, but there is a few more questions I have for you. One more, most importantly, that is the talk of every channel, every spaces, is the topic of AI and jobs. It is evident that AI is making us smarter, but also making our world smarter and more efficient. I want to talk about AI and the jobs topic from the angle of increased efficiency. Will you talk to us about the efficiency that we're about to experience in various industries, and how does that efficiency will translate into more jobs? Because as Mark Andreessen mentioned, there are a lot of people are saying, "Will we have our jobs? Will there be new set of jobs? Will there be new set of skills? Is it all in computer science?" Can we put a rest to that here and now on this channel?
No, I don't think we can put a rest to anything on this channel. I think
I can
we're
hope.
entering the age, like I said, we're entering the age of science fiction. We can maybe see out 3 or 4 years, but beyond that, it's getting pretty hard to see. But I will say this: that in the era that we can see, which is say the next 5 years, I think we're going to see an augmentation rather than a replacement. I think we're going to be able to see it's not that hard to learn these tools. It's easy to learn them, and it's going to change education. It's going to change entertainment, and there's going to be new opportunities. And this thing happened in 1850 when we finally, when mechanization started to hit farming. It used to take 80 people to work on a farm. Suddenly, it took 8 people to work on a farm, and people are, oh my God, what are we going to do? And there's no jobs. No, they had to go back to school, learn things, and learn how to make tractors instead of dig in the ground themselves. So I think we're going to be in a transition period for the next 25 years as people learn to inhabit a world with AI. But it may be that there's the short term, which is learn the tools. Right now, you learn how to prompt. You can really make great art or write a book or anything you want. And it'll affect our jobs a lot. But in the far future, I mean, there's various science fiction scenarios where AI robots are making everything. So the price of everything goes to zero and everybody lives like a millionaire and there's no reason for jobs. I mean, in 2050. I mean, that's one wild scenario in the future. And so you can kind of see the whole range of possibilities there that there's things that we can't imagine yet. There may be new kinds of wealth created. I mean, Bitcoin and Ethereum are. I think I bought Bitcoin back in 2016 when it was $300, and it's about $26,000 today. I mean, so these new tokens and things are pretty wild and offer the possibility of new wealth creation, robots, robot assembly lines, things like that. Robot house building may drop the price of things so low that it's almost like we're really wealthy comparatively. So a lot of, I think, uh, like I said, we can maybe see out 3, 4, 5 years, but I think beyond that, it moves into science fiction.
Absolutely. And one of our listeners here is saying exponential intelligence. Absolutely. But then there's going to be a learning curve here for the next generation to learn these new skills, correct?
Well, yeah. What's cool is parents would be complaining to their kids, "Quit playing those games and study." But actually, it turns out that playing the games was really a great, almost yoga for the brain. I mean, you have to use tactics and strategy, and you're thinking really fast. Neurons are triggering. You're making decisions in real time. In many ways, the last 2 generations have grown up in 3D environments, making decisions quickly and socializing with their friends in these environments. So they're in some ways they're native to it all. Look at Roblox and Fortnite. I mean, Fortnite's got like 500 registered users. So I'm not worried about the future. I think 2 generations are already kind of begging for more AI and more VR and AR. So yeah, I think we're gonna we're in a fast learning environment. I probably learned more in the last year than I did when I was in grad school.
I
I
think
mean,
we
it's a high
all
learning curve.
I think we all could say that. I mean, I've learned more in the past 2 years of just teaching myself Web3 than I learned in college. And when people say, these jobs are all gaming and computer science and engineering, I think that's far from the truth. When it comes to Web3, and you can, bring more light to AI, but when it comes to Web3, good talent is needed in legal, economy, psychology, culture. There's just so many different areas that we need good talent and entrepreneurs to take some of these skills and grow on these layers. And I'm sure with AI is the same, because when you say AI, people think computer science, but that's far from what is really needed here, right?
Well, here's so I'll flip up a little graphic for you here. Hold on one second, and it just kind of makes the point. Uh, Here we
No, and
go. I'll share a screen. Can you see that screen there? Let me make it larger.
yes, we can.
So this is things that AI is good for.
Wow.
Look at that.
All right.
Sports, aerospace, entertainment, gaming,
Anyone
communication.
who thinks that AI is going to take your job away, here is Dan's presentation of the jobs you can have with AI.
Yeah, it's gonna impact every part of our lives, of course, and open up new possibilities. I mean, look what happened when the App Store opened up. I mean, you got things like Uber and Airbnb. Nobody ever imagined that. When the World Wide Web came in, Jeff Bezos quit his job and started Amazon. People thought he was crazy, and look at how big that is now. So there's going to be new things that emerge over this next 5 years that will blow our minds. I mean, it's just going to open up all new kinds of. Many people are making money just running Airbnbs right now. That's a job that never existed up until 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So, you know, we are entering an unknown terrain, and it's going to be exciting, and we're going to learn a lot, and we're going to grow a lot. So I think we've got to take a more positive view of it all.
Absolutely. We are still running out of time here. I wanted to talk about digital currency. I wanted to talk about economy. I wanted to take this into economy because we are in such a uh, creators economy, Web3, and I wanted to talk about that. So maybe you can shed some light just on digital currency and how that's going to come in. What are we expecting? What needs to happen? And then we're going to have to start closing it, guys. So ask your questions now. Tell us
Well,
yeah, tell us a little bit about digital currency here before we head out.
Well, I think it's always important to contextualize things historically. And so modern fiat currencies have really come in with the industrial age, and they're part of our industrial world that we live in, of fiat currencies and companies and just the way it all works. But as we move on to a network and we're making things out of instead of making things out of atoms, taking things out of the ground and making cars and oil and gasoline and all these kinds of things, now we're making things out of bits. Well, then we kind of need a bit currency that operates really smoothly and high speed on networks globally. And that's certainly what the digital currencies offer. And so I think over time, digital currencies become dominant. Of course, there'll be a mixture of fiat currencies that have been digitized. Central bank digital currencies are going to be part of the activity as well. But in general, yeah, everything's going to go digital because we're moving to a globally networked economy. That's the next economy, and the industrial age economy will be run by robots, pretty much. The robots will work on the assembly lines and that kind of thing in the warehouses. So really, everything, even the industrial age, will be digitized. So you're really operating in a new digital economy, a new digital civilization, and probably half our time is spent inside virtual reality worlds, even. So it's a pretty remarkable time that's coming.
Absolutely. And you always say, Dan, this all requires training, transformation, and evolving, right? You put it so eloquently. Where does training begin? Where do people start?
Yeah. Well, I think oddly enough, like I said, I think we got two generations of 3D gamers, and they're well trained. And I think obviously you can learn how to use all the AIs that are currently available. I mean, ChatGPT has a lot of training tools, and there's a lot of people on YouTube that are giving training sessions. Our new GIA will be coming out later this year or at the beginning of the year, and there you just really talk to it. I mean, so. You're just, I think it's like anything kind of, if you want to go snowboarding in the beginning, you kind of learn a little bit, and then fall down, learn a little bit more, then you fall down less, and finally you can snowboard. So I think we're all going to be kind of learning and evolving, and finally we get fluent with this stuff. Same thing happened in computer gaming. When you first try to play a computer game, you can't, and each time you play it, you can go further, and finally you get really fluent with it, and finally you're a really good gamer. I think it's the same thing with these things. We're going to learn to operate in these digital environments, and first we're going to kind of fumble around and kind of get our way, and then after a while we'll speak it fluently, just like learning another language. And it'll just become a normal part of our lives in the next 10, 20 years.
Here we are again. What I'm hearing is that gaming, once again, is the lower barrier to entry for AI or gamify.
That is
AI.
every 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 game has had AI in it. I mean, that's what the non-player characters are all about, you know. So yeah, it's always been AI and VR and gaming, and now we're extending that. In fact, there's a whole theoretical academic study called game theory, which doesn't apply just to entertainment games, but to the way humans make decisions and what they buy and where they live and where they go to school. So game theory is a very powerful, very fundamental idea underlying AI, and John von Neumann was one of the big progenitors of it. And so we're going to apply game theory and AI to every part of our world now, and in a way, and you could argue that we're gamifying the world,
We
you know.
are.
And there was a famous engineer back in the 70s named Buckminster Fuller, and he said, "Look, in the future, maybe we could develop something like a world game that we all play, and it generates so much wealth that we're living almost in a utopia world." And so I recommend everybody read Buckminster Fuller's really cool book called Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth. It's really great. He said, "Look, you're born on a spaceship, you don't know it, you call it Earth, but it came without a manual. So we're kind of having to fumble around and figure out how to operate this thing." So he wrote the operating manual for Spaceship Earth, really great. And he was the designer of the geodesic dome idea. So he's kind of a futurist all along. But I think the world game idea was pretty exciting.
Wow, we are playing this thing called Game of Life, and that is legitimately what is happening here. Dan, you are a true visionary. You are as innovative as it gets, a real builder of AI in the spatial web. And there's this one question I ask every builder who comes on my show. And it's the why, because in our space, we focus so much on the what. What is it that we're building? We all know what the builders are building, but we seldom talk about why we're building what we're building. So I want to ask you your why. Why are you building versus in the spatial web?
Well, I mean, there's probably 10 good answers to that. But the fundamental one is if you look around the world right now, we're actually in danger. We're having a global climate crisis. We're having a disappearance of species. This is called the sixth great extinction. We have hurricanes and heat waves, and this year was the most intense ever. Highest temperatures recorded in history on the planet. So clearly, we need to evolve. Einstein said you can't solve the problem from the level that it was created. You need to, kind of build a new framework, a new understanding, a new set of capabilities to solve those problems. So if we're going to evolve and thrive for another, 100,000 years, we've been here for about 250,000 years so far as Homo sapiens. We want to be here in 100,000 years from now. We got to get through this next 50 years, or we got a problem on our hands. So I think a lot of us in technology are trying to invent tools to help us manage our planet better, to operate as a global community more fairly and evenly, without wars and without these kinds of things, and to create more abundance so that we don't have people getting left behind. So those are fairly fundamental reasons for doing it. And of course, then there's just the intellectual challenge. There's a race to see who's going to get to build the first AGI. Right now, I think we're in first place, but there's a lot of competition, so it's kind of exciting. But we might get there first. We have the number one neuroscientist in the world on our team, and so even that's kind of fun, like at the Olympic level of kind of okay, who can build the coolest AI that reaches AGI first, and whoever does that, obviously, there's rewards for that. I mean, just so you win the gold medal at the Olympics, and winning the gold medal in business is you get a really successful company. So we're doing our best to reach that threshold first in the world.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. And it's very evident that this is you don't do this for you. You do this for humanity, and you do this for the future of the generation that's coming behind us. It is such an honor to have you on the show, Dan. Thank you so much for taking the time from building the future of humanity to share your insight and brilliance with us. I hope that you come back again to educate us and share your progress. That was very, very insightful. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, Mona. It was really a fun conversation. I loved all the questions from the audience as well. So, yeah, let's build the future together. We'll be releasing our tools over the next few months, probably a closed beta to begin with, a limited number of beta users, and then opening a little more every month. So, even though I said January, that's the conservative view. I'm hoping we'll probably be starting to deliver some things to the public in October, November, December, and then on through. But yeah, let's all build it together. I mean, that's really the way we're going to do this in the future, working together as a community.
Absolutely. And Dan, I will put the information in the notes section, but where can people learn more? And you also gave us the name of two books. I always love good books. Will you repeat those names for us as well?
Yeah, our website is www.verses.ai, and lots of material on there. Of course, I've given a lot of interviews, and so is my partner Gabriel Rene. And so there's a lot of material online about the spatial web. Our chief scientist is Dr. Carl Friston, Friston. There's a lot of work on active inference is available online if you're interested in the technology underlying what we're doing in AI. The books would be Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth, of course, by Mr. Fuller, a seminal fun book for anybody in futuristic tech. And then Neuromancer, Neuromancer by William Gibson. Neuromancer, great book on cybersecurity and dealing with hacking on these advanced AI networks.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I think I got everyone's question. Guys in the audience, thank you for all your questions. Scott, thank you for your support. I think I left one question, and I hate leaving people with unanswered questions. Rene Gabriel, the CEO, posted on his Twitter on August 08, AI is going to the moon as he went to NASA. What do you have to say on the matter, sir?
Well, I can't say obviously too much, but what we do, what the spatial web enables, is for us to control any autonomous vehicle. Like, for instance, imagine all the drones that are going to be in the sky from DHL and Amazon and private drones and police drones and everything. Well, they're going to run into each other and crash. And with airplanes, we have air traffic controllers, but there's no pilots in the drone. So how could we deal with that? So we built a autonomous vehicle management system, and we've been testing it in 5 cities in Europe, so that we can tell this drone to fly at this level, east west, and this level, west east, and that way you kind of create an FAA for drones, and so that will be spreading around the world in the coming years. And of course, that's really interesting to NASA for looking at how you control robots on Mars or the moon or other kinds of things like that, because it's a general purpose spatial control system for autonomous vehicles. So whether it doesn't matter whether they're robots or trucks or drones or ships or whatever, you need to have an AI that's keeping them from running into each other and reaching their destination safely and on time and all the rest of it. So that's one of 100 features that the spatial web can do. It can do all of that for every autonomous vehicle worldwide, and that's pretty exciting.
Very, very exciting. So many different sectors that AI can play such a huge part and just change the way we do everything from finance to education to transportation. It all is shifting right before our eyes, and we are a part of it, and that is very, very exciting. All right, guys, I have to let Dan go home. That's all the time we have for today. I really hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. I hope Dan is coming back to give us updates and keep educating us and teaching us. I'll be back again next week with more hot topics in technology. Until then, I'm your host, Madamona. Stay positive.
Bye bye.